Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't do the rest of it, but we're going to roll with it. Welcome back to another review. We've really been spoiling you this last weekend or so. This is like no, it ain't the third day in a row, but 3 out of the 4 days. I'm having a stroke, I think.
Really hot.
It's really hot.
We're,
It
we're
is.
way, but we are currently 32 to 32 degrees today.
It's hot. It's 30. It's 23, and it's
It's,
quarter to 9 at
I
the moment.
believe it's been
It's
33
been
today.
33 today. Tomorrow's meant to be 31. It's hot, so I apologise if the fan is being picked up by the microphone. I do
Not only
apologise.
that, we're British, so we just moan about everything and don't actually do anything.
Yeah,
There you
pretty
go.
much. That's just how it is, unfortunately. Anyway, welcome back. I am your host, as ever, Purple
The
Midnight
third
8.
one.
Okay, do you have to ruin the
Okay.
fucking intro again? You always
What
say.
do you mean?
I can't do an intro without you going, don't forget to mention the third one.
Yeah, because I don't want you to forget him, because he's got his
Yeah, but
plot
I know
right.
where he is, but you don't need to, like, interrupt me every. Anyway. I, as always, am your host, Purple Midnight 8, joined by Madam fucking third host. I should make him the second host and you the third host. You're gonna get demoted. Anyway, I'm joined by Amelia, the
I'm gonna
Obsidian Nook,
leave.
Petal ASMR, and also the cat, Stasi, who decides to lay behind the fan as opposed to in front of it for some reason. Uh, this week we are looking at the 2007 Halloween remake. It's coming up on the middle of September. We're kind of wanting to move towards spooky season. And we're doing a movie that Amelia didn't know existed, despite seeing the second of the remakes, and just didn't think that the first one was real.
It's because I couldn't read.
Could just leave it there. You can't read. There
No,
you go.
no, just no.
Well, go on, finish your story.
What are what? So instead of the numbers being numbers, they have the weird like.
They're Roman numerals in the second one for
Right.
some
So
reason, because
basically, I
art
can't read Roman. What are they called?
numerals.
Because of my disability. But if it's a number, I can read it.
Mm.
So, and my mum was the same because they think she had autism. So. Yeah, but we found Halloween 2 in a bin
Well, not
in
in a bin. She
in
found it in a bargain bin.
at Blockbusters.
Blockbuster, ladies and gentlemen. Remember the times.
And obviously it was on its own and it didn't have anything else with it. So me and mum were just like, all right, we'll get this, we'll watch it. Me and mum couldn't read the Roman
The Roman numerals.
yeah, so we were just like, okay, this film
This is Halloween 11,
this
judging by the fact
this
that two eyes look like a.
This is this film was well now we've seen the first one, it makes a lot of sense, but back then I was like, this is
You're
fucking
just like,
weird,
this is it.
but I like
I feel
it.
like a large chunk of the story's missing, almost like a full movie.
Yeah, but I didn't twig back then, so now I discovered. Well, you told me that they were done by Rob Zombie and that there's two of them. Have the second one on DVD, so
And you
um,
never knew this existed until
you
it
know,
came up on Netflix.
a running joke where I say
Would I
we
get it on DVD?
we watched it on Netflix last night and literally we had 40 minutes left and I was like, we are buying this on DVD and we didn't even have it.
I must say, it's not because of like our opinions on the film that swayed us into buying it. It's just that we already own the full collection, which we will get around to covering one day. Please ignore the fact we are covering like way too far in the future, and we haven't even done the first one because we have covered Halloween Ends, the last one, and now we're covering a remake of the original before covering any of the original series. So please ignore that. We try our best to do the first film in the series first, and then follow it along. I mean, we haven't, except for Scary Movie, we've not done any other franchises yet.
But sometimes that may not be possible. So if you want
Depends what we
to
have on DVD.
if you want to see them back to back, then obviously go from the beginning. But we were just like, fuck it, we're gonna go with the Rob Zombies because didn't you say one of them was leaving Netflix soon?
The second one is leaving Netflix, but we
So
have that on DVD anyway, so it doesn't matter. There's a movie that we're gonna have as a bonus episode in the middle of next month because that's leaving Netflix, and I can't find it anywhere
Well,
else. We're not gonna spoil what it is. But
well, with this one, the second Halloween that was done follow up to Halloween, the 2007 one, you can buy that on DVD and you can rent it and stuff and shit. But this one,
we
we
could
have
not find it anywhere.
See, we literally went on CEX last night, typed in our postcode, and luckily we found a store near us that had two. So obviously you went up there today, didn't you, to go and get a copy?
Mm.
So I was obsessing over it because I was like, oh, it's really going to bug me now if we don't have it. But I tried
What's the one we were missing from the
tried
collection?
looking everywhere. HMV don't have it. You can
The Xbox store didn't have
can
it.
rent it on YouTube, but I don't think you can buy it. The Xbox didn't have it, the PlayStation didn't have it, the App Store didn't have it. So I was like, the only way we're going to get this is by getting it from secondhand. But if you guys want it, then I highly suggest CEX or maybe Vinted or Facebook Marketplace where someone has a copy that they don't want.
You're not going to find a new copy of it anywhere.
Yeah.
We can't find them.
I don't understand how the second one has still got copies out there being sold, but the first one.
I mean, if you
nothing.
know why, you can let us know. But we just couldn't find it anywhere.
Couldn't Googled it, couldn't even find the reason why. So
No, it doesn't make
I'm
sense.
curious to know why you can get the second one so easily, but the first one
The first one's like fucking gold.
you can't get it.
Like, honestly, if you're going to find it, you're going to find it secondhand. You're not going to find a new copy anywhere unless you're very lucky. I mean, it could be a completely different situation in like the US or somewhere else in Europe, but for us, just couldn't fucking do it.
But I mean, so there was a copy being sold on Amazon by someone, but they wanted like £10.
And that's without shipping.
Yeah, and like CEX only sell it for £2.50. So
We got lucky, is what we're trying to say. But if you can find it somewhere else, I mean, well done for a start. But
you are going to kind of need to see it before you see the second one, because if not, you're going to sit there and be like, "This don't make."
yeah, you're going to be confused like she was, and
But
think, God, where's the rest of this story?
It's years, because Mum never.
You said you had it since you were a teenager.
Yeah.
So as I said to you, that's at least 8 years.
That's sad.
That is sad. Like, God. Like, you never knew. And that whole time you thought you had the full collection. And you were saying, like, one of your Halloween traditions was to watch the entire series back to back.
Yeah, so my mum.
So you never actually watched the full series. I'm sure your mum probably had seen it, but just forgot about it. Oh, Stasi is on the prowl at the moment. Anyway, enough about our little backstory. I'd definitely recommend watching it before you watch this, because there's a lot of weird yet predictable things. Oh, Stasi's whining. Stasi!
He's gonna.
Yeah, he is a third co-host, obviously, so he needs to give his opinions of us not petting him. What are you doing? Does he come up? Anyway. So we'll get into it, of course. This one may be a bit longer than the other ones. For some reason, it dragged on to 3 and a bit pages.
Well, they fitted a hell of a fucking lot.
There was a lot that happened. A lot of it is to do with Michael when he was young.
And I've got to give it to them. They did this one. I think they did it really fucking well to fit that much in.
And congratulations on them actually making Michael Myers scary again.
And we do have worst kill, best kill, because a load of motherfuckers died.
A lot of people died, but it's typical Halloween affair where
But there is 2 deaths that did actually make us think how sad they were. Remember? Because I said to you, oh, well, this one's really, really sad because... And then this one was really, really sad.
You'll have to remind me when we get to it. I can't remember. Oh, no, was it...
Well, we have...
Sorry, we'll put spoilers in now so we can discuss it. Which one?
We have
was it her parents? Her, like, adopted parents? They were quite sad.
No. We have the one from... If you lot grew up and watched Spy Kids...
That was not sad. That kid was a cunt. Sorry for the language, but...
No, the guy with black hair who you said who's been in prison in actual real life.
Oh, Danny Trejo's death is really sad.
Yeah.
Like, I love Danny Trejo.
I'm sure he was in Spy Kids.
He was Machete, and then he got his own films.
So
yeah, 2 Spy Kids in this film, and they die. I mean, her adoptive parents die, and that's really sad.
The mother was sad as well.
Oh yeah, that was genuinely depressing.
But there's a few things we'll go over because there was something that didn't really make sense to us, and it weren't until the end where we were like, oh, okay, they did try.
It did make sense. Like, there's all that The big twist, if you want to call it that, is of course that Michael Myers is a
Well,
lot like it. Well, if you've seen the
well, no,
original,
it's the fact that the daughter, the baby, was still in the same town.
they do explain that later on,
Yeah, I
and I'll probably
know,
have to go
but
over that.
just
But
saying.
if you've seen the original before they retconned it in the reboot or whatever it was, the sequels, it's not really much a requel. I think is the official term that it's been dubbed as. But obviously, Michael and Laurie are related in the original timeline before they retconned it, and in this timeline. So the big twist is it's like, oh, the baby from the intro is in reality Laurie. But of course, that's not canon anymore in the main franchise.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah, that was the big twist they tried. But
I thought the girl's name was Annie.
Laurie,
Oh,
Annie's the one who survived.
oh,
But
right.
that's the sheriff's daughter, is Annie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Ignore me. Sorry.
Chucky. There are I must say, there are so many horror legends in this film. It's actually crazy.
Mm.
Um,
You got to admit the gore was kind of gross as well.
the gore
Not
was good.
kind of.
The gore was good. I'll give him that.
I don't
Rob Zombie,
mind.
you can rely on for the gore.
As I say, I don't mind gore, but not
Not
anything.
Saw and Hostel levels of gore, where it's like
Yeah,
really
and I
gruesome.
think House of Wax I watched with Mum one year,
Did you
and I
watch the
was.
remake or the original? Because they're both pretty weird.
It was the one with Paris Hilton, and
The remake. Oh, yeah, she was in that.
yeah, she only had a small like cameo bit, didn't she?
She's in another film where
But
she
Mum,
gets
Mum had that
decapitated.
film, and we watched it, and it traumatized me when I was like 14,
It is
15.
fucked.
And after that, I was just
My
like,
dad showed me Jaws when I was about four
I
or
went off
five, and
horror,
that traumatized me for years.
went off horror for years, and it's only recently I've started getting back into it. But obviously, I have my limit,
Yeah,
and there's things I do say no to now.
we will get. There are some pretty gruesome films we've covered so far.
Mm.
Like Halloween Ends did have some fucking gruesome kills, and that poor kid getting yeeted off a balcony was probably the best part of that film. Even though Halloween Ends had its very high amount of problems, it still had the kills, and at least you can give them that, and they were okay.
Just leave the franchise dead now. Don't bring.
Yeah, don't bring Michael back. I mean, they will in like 10 years. Let's be real. Anyway, we'll get into the actual film now because we've wasted enough time. This is going to be a benchmark for me, if you want to call it that. I'm changing how I'm going to do this a little bit. Unless the cast have been featured on the channel already, I will not be looking up what they've been in because that wastes so much time. And a lot of these films, especially recently, we've had several films where they've not been in anything I've known, and I've just went, no, I don't know what they're in. No, never heard of any of that. So, unless they've been on the channel already, I'll still credit them, but I'm not going through their fucking IMDb because I'll be there all day. Some of them I still go, no idea. And then usually it's like, oh, they're best known for this film. So it's just like, what a waste of time. But we'll get on with it now. So, as we mentioned several times, this film was written and directed by Rob Zombie. Rob Zombie, of course, being a musician as opposed to mainly a director, but he's done several other things. He's done House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's
I
Rejects,
was gonna. Like, I don't know.
Monsters. What? Go on. Unless it's horribly offensive, share it with the class.
His fucking wife's hot.
Yeah, he
She's really
knows. He
pretty.
knows. He knows. That's why she's in all his films. Because he can
Lovely.
be like, I've got this, you don't, lol.
You know how you and Morgan have a joke about that you would go gay for Ryan Reynolds?
Every man would go gay for Ryan
I
Reynolds.
kind of would go gay for her.
She is hot, though.
Mm.
I'm not going to deny, but she is a conventionally attractive woman. Anyway. So, written and directed by Rob Zombie, the man who loves to show off his wife. And he does that, of course, in this as well, because he has her be a stripper. Typical white trash mother. as I will mention. This is currently available on Netflix. I don't think it's leaving at the end of September. The second one is, though, for some reason. I don't know why they've removed the sequel and not the first one. But doesn't matter. So, in a typical white trash family's house, very white trash, very Rob Zombie characters, lots of swearing, lots of grotesque things being said to each other, lots of inappropriate remarks. It's awful. If you've seen the Devil's Rejects like trilogy, it is just a lot of swearing and horrific things. So, in this house, young Michael Myers, forgive me if I'm going to butcher his name, Dag Faerch. He is American, I was surprised. I was expecting like Norwegian or something, judging by the name. He is in his room while his mother, Deborah, as we mentioned, Sherry Moon Zombie, the wife of the one and only Rob Zombie, and his douchebag stepfather, Ronnie, played by William Forsythe, argue over breakfast, which upsets their infant child. I think they call her Boo. I don't know if that's a nickname, but obviously they can't. I think her name's Angel or some shit. Some cringe.
I remember in the second film that like Angel gets shouted about quite a lot.
Yeah, I think that's her like birth name, but I can't remember.
And what's it? Angel and Baby, things that get like said between.
Yeah, her name is Angel, but her fake name is obviously Laurie. The canon. Well, we will cover that when we get to it because the canon is she dies in the second one. Spoilers for the second one. We'll get there eventually. So yeah. Judith Myers, played by Hannah R. Hall, comes in and is told by Deborah to retrieve Michael, who has just murdered one of his pet rats. Lots of dead animals in this film, by the way. However, this is not a new thing because there's been several times throughout the main franchise where he's eaten dogs. That's true, by the way. Ronnie makes some inappropriate comments about Judith and insults Mikey. Later that day, Michael is harassed by a bully named Wesley, played by Daryl Sabara. As mentioned, he is the kid from Spy Kids and also Megan Trainor's husband, which is weird. At school, who insults his mother and his sister. The principal breaks up a fight between the kids, which Michael does not appreciate, causing the principal to cause Deborah and Samuel Loomis, played by Malcolm McDowell, a child psychologist, to the school. The principal shows the two of them a dead cat and several images of dead animals to Deborah. Oh, I didn't write that correctly. Michael runs for school, grabbing his clown mask from his locker before he leaves, and stalks Wesley from a distance. From a child, he has practiced the ability to stand at a distance and stare menacingly at people.
I generally think this has his problems are generally to do with the fact
his family.
that his family basically fucked him up and failed him.
In the woods, Michael jumps out and repeatedly beats Wesley with a tree branch, making him beg for his life. You can understand how that would kill him, but if you're being repeatedly beaten with a piece of wood, that would eventually kill you with internal bleeding and shit. So yeah, Michael doesn't relent on beating him and beats him to death in a fit of rage. Like, that kid bleeds from his face. It is horrible. As he's like begging for his life, like one of his eyes have gone all bloodshot and he's just pouring blood from his face. It's disgusting.
Yeah, he kind of deserved it though.
He's a piece of shit kid. He didn't
bully.
Yeah, but was it necessary to murder him? At home, Ronnie continues to abuse Michael and he calls for Judith. Oh no, hang on. Yeah, Ronnie continues to abuse Michael and Deborah calls for Judith to take him trick-or-treating. Judith eventually comes down to greet her boyfriend Steve, played by Adam Wiseman, at the door as Deborah leaves for her job at the strip club. Steve and Judith make love and Bob surprises her by scaring her with the classic Michael Myers mask. So instead of stealing it from a shop like he does in the original, he just nicks it from some random fuckboy.
Is this where we get the classic music as well?
We do a bit. Ronnie, by this point, has fallen asleep by the time Michael returns from his trick-or-treating on his own. Michael eventually gets bored of his candy and grabs tape and a kitchen knife before approaching the unconscious Ronnie. Ever since the first Oh, Stasi has
Okay.
bought us a present.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stasi.
Thank you, baby boy.
I love your little face when you meow.
Thank you for your
Good
contribution.
boy.
You did good.
So yeah, since the first scene of this, you were absolutely rooting for this guy to die. You were literally just like, well, he's gonna fucking die, and I was just like, yep, he's fucked. He tapes Ronnie down to his chair, and because he was pissed enough, he doesn't wake up. He decides enough is enough and slits Ronnie's throat with his knife. Judith puts on her headphones as Steve goes downstairs, with Michael following him down. Steve sits down, unaware of Michael armed with a bat behind him, who strikes Steve with it, causing some moderate brain damage, because he fucking twitches around on the ground a bit, before beating him to death with it just off screen. Michael enters Judith's room and trades his clown mask for Steve's, and stabs Judith in the stomach with his knife. She then proceeds to stagger down the hallway, with Michael stalking her from behind, occasionally slashing her until she collapses and dies. So yeah, for a change, Michael's first kill isn't his sister, it's some random little shit he beat to death in the woods. Fair enough. Michael heads down to his infant sister and wishes her a happy Halloween as Deborah returns home to him sat outside with her, not responding to anything she's saying. Police and reporters arrive on the scene where they take the bodies and apprehend Michael. 11 months later in Smith's Grove Sanatorium, we catch up with Dr. Loomis, who is charged with the care of Michael. Loomis conducts an interview with him about the night the year prior, and Michael seems to be completely unaware of what happened to his family. Deborah visits him, and he once again is seemingly unaware of the murders he committed. And a cleaner named Ishmael, played by Danny Trejo as mentioned, speaks to Michael in his cell and gives him words of encouragement. As mentioned, Danny Trejo was actually a convict before he became an actor. He really turned his life around, of course. He's very public about that. You can look up his convictions in your own time. I'm not going through the list of it. But it's obviously like a callback to him in his real life, like early days. Michael makes several masks during his incarceration, and one day during an interview with Loomis in one of his masks, he has a mental breakdown. Sometime later with his mother and Loomis, they leave a nurse alone with him when Michael viciously attacks her with a fork. However, I don't believe he kills her.
Yeah, but
She's still moving.
Leaves a fork
Who gives metal cutlery to convicts?
committed not one murder, not two murder, but was it four?
Wesley, Judith, Steve, Ronnie, 4. I might be missing one.
I'm sorry.
Several rats as well, I
just
must
have to
say.
be so-
Well, who gives metal cutlery to people who've been convicted? That's the entire point of why they have plastic. Deborah breaks down in tears while watching home videos of happier times with her family, as she grabs a nearby revolver and proceeds to shoot herself, of course now orphaning the baby girl. 15 years later, Ishmael is teaching a new guard named Noel, who is played by Lou Temple, Axel from The Walking Dead. If I know the actors, I will say what they've been in. If I don't, I'm just going to let people do their own thing. So yeah, Ishmael's teaching Noel the ropes as they go to retrieve Michael. It's important to mention for the review we watched a theatrical cut, which has at least 2 less kills in it, as far as I'm aware, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, but when you're about I'm not comfortable with that, so
Yeah, it's understandable why he cut it out, because Noel and I think his cousin, I think is what he's meant to be, eventually go to a new female prisoner and decide to assault her in Michael's cell. And Michael ends up killing them except for the woman who he actually spares. But it's fair enough that he decided to cut out sexual assault, because that's fucked. It's unacceptable and it's pointless it being there, and obviously we had that with Creep and we do not want that anymore. And unfortunately we bought the uncut version which will have that included. Stasi, calm down. I know you feel very passionate about being against sexual assault, which is good. So yeah, they get to Michael's cell, which is filled with several of his masks, where they chain up the now gigantic Michael, played by Tyler Mane, a former professional wrestler. But they take him to the waiting Loomis, who decides that their time together is over and apologizes. As mentioned, this Michael is fucking scary. He is strong, he is tall.
It's like you get to one scene where he's a kid, and then you get to like 10 years later or whatever, and it's this really tall, massive dude. And
This
you're just like,
absolute
what?
giant of a man, and it's like, holy fuck. Like, there are several times where he'll, like, stand up from somewhere and his head will go off the fucking frame. Time Main is a big bloke. Loomis later gives a book reading on his story of Michael Myers to some students, and back at Smith's Grove, a group of guards, which I don't know most of them, however, I will name a couple of them, which includes Garrett, played by horror legend Bill Moseley, and Frost, who is played by Police Academy's Leslie Easterbrook, where they await the order to transfer Michael. The order eventually comes, and during the move, Michael uses his sheer strength to break free of some chains and slaughter the guards. I put beating Garrett to death. He literally punched him, and that's it. He gets worst kill. I'll spoil that now. Just because he gets punched once and then he's like done for the film. So yeah, he punches Garrett, which apparently kills him somehow. Mashes another guard's head several times against the wall. Then uses a third guard to block Frost's shotgun blast, and then proceeds to rip Frost's throat out. That was a lot in one scene. So as Ishmael goes through the building, he doesn't notice the corpse of a nurse who had her throat ripped out. So does he leave the drug bag alone? The medical drug bag, I should say, not just a regular drug. He continues until he finds another pair of dead guards before Michael surprises him. Ishmael is shocked and attempts to cuff Michael, which of course proves to be a fatal mistake when Michael attacks him, partially drowning him to begin with as he begs for mercy, and eventually Michael kills him by dropping a TV on his head. It's very sad. He literally is pleading for him not to kill him because of how nice he was.
He was so good to him.
How can you kill Danny Trejo? He's the nicest man. He's
I
lovely.
just don't get it.
Loomis is awoken in the night by a phone call from Coplinson, a little bit part for a character actor which is also a friend of Rob Zombie's, played by Clint Howard. I only know him from one film, I believe, and that's where he plays a killer ice cream man. Genuinely. That is a film, and I want to review it because it's so stupid. Who tells him of the murders and Michael's breakout. At a truck stop, Joe Grizzly, played by Ken Foray, probably most known for the original Dawn of the Dead, as well as a quick little cameo in the Zack Snyder one. He stops in as Michael also arrives. Joe goes to the bathroom to freshen up when Michael follows him in, knocking on the stall that he is shitting in. That is a point I have to make because he says that he's had like spicy tacos and he's got like diarrhea. It's Rob Zombie. He doesn't hold back on the pointless details about people's bathroom like habits. When Joe doesn't open, Michael knocks harder. Forgive me. I've lost where I was. Which causes Joe to threaten him with violence. Joe pulls a knife and stands, opening the door to intimidate Michael. I think he's about the same height as Tyler Mane, because those two are like the exact same size. Michael rushes him and repeatedly hammers his arm into the wall, literally knocking the wall down. A metal bathroom stall wall. He literally slammed it against it that hard that he broke it, which is a lot. Michael manages to disarm him and stab him to death, stealing his boiler suit. So now he has his full costume. May I say he has disgusting feet, because for some reason we see them briefly.
Yeah, that was a weird scene.
That was pointless. I felt like I was watching a Quentin Tarantino film. There's a lot of feet in that. On Halloween, the Strodes, which is Cynthia, played by Dee Wallace, and Mason, Pat Skipper, and their daughter Laurie, played by Scout Taylor Compton, pardon me, head out for the day. On the way, Tommy Doyle, played by Skylar Gisondo, I don't know, bothers her with random things he saw on TV the night before. Michael eventually returns to his old home, where he looks below some floorboards, finding his iconic mask and knife waiting for him. He overhears Tommy and Laurie, I don't know, outside where Tommy warns her about the boogeyman who lives there. At school, Laurie meets with Annie Brackett, played by Danielle Harris, and Linda, Christina Cleve, in a library. Upon looking out the window, she sees Michael staring at her from afar. So yeah, it's the classic scene, like, remade from the original of her looking out the classroom window and seeing Michael staring at her. And then when she look away, he's gone. So Loomis then speaks with Copelandson and tells him that they need to warn someone about where Michael is going. I wonder who. It's Laurie, obviously. We spoiled the twist already. Laurie and her friends unknowingly tease Michael, who watches them from a distance. Annie's dad, Lee, played by Brad Dourif, probably most famous for the voice of Chucky from Child's Play, pulls up next to them and gives Annie a ride home. Laurie breaks up from Linda and feels she's being watched. Because, of course. Loomis goes to a cemetery and speaks to the groundskeeper, played by another of Rob Zombie's friends and co-workers. It casts him in a lot. He's in Free From Hell. Sid Haig passed away not too long ago. Bless him, rest in peace. Because he is unhinged in House of a Thousand Corpses.
I've not seen.
It's another Rob Zombie film, and it's batshit. Where they find Judith Meyer's gravestone missing, replaced with the skin of a fox. Linda and her boyfriend Bob, Nick Mennel, arrive at the Myers house, not noticing Michael stood on the outside balcony. Bob has sex with Linda and ends up finishing early, which of course disappoints her, who sends him outside to his van for more alcohol. He's a fuckboy with a van, what do you expect? Bob goes out to his van where he's followed by Michael as Linda calls Laurie. Bob enters wearing a sheet, but Michael ambushes him, and as mentioned in the Halloween Ends review, I fucking hate the logic of stabbing someone to a wall using a knife. Because how does it go far enough through the body and into the wall far enough to support a whole human being's corpse?
You never see that, no offense, but you never see that done in a British film.
It doesn't make sense. That knife would have to be like a machete.
I'm just wondering if it's because, like, their houses are built differently over there, as we're, like, concrete, plasterboard.
That's why it's really fucking hot.
I mean, it's not exactly thin walls.
No.
But not being horrible, America has houses where, especially in Florida, they get like hit with a storm and they're out.
Yeah, fuck you. Ignoring the fact there was a fucking hurricane recently.
No, but I'm just saying it's built very weird.
Yeah.
To the point where they take one hit and then they're out. It's our houses. If it gets hit by lightning, the roof will be off. But
I don't know where this is going.
I'm just saying our houses will still be standing.
Anyway, the point is that the knife shit doesn't make sense, and it's used so much in the franchise. So yeah, he uses the knife magic to pin him to the wall and kill him, of course. Michael enters the room wearing Bob's sheet and glasses, once again another shot from the original film, getting flashed by Linda in the process. I forgot to say, but my god, how many fucking naked women are in this film?
Oh my god.
Everyone's got their tits out. Like, either that or they're completely naked. It's just, put some clothes on. You're gonna get a cold. You're gonna catch a cold, for fuck's sake. Anyway. So Linda gets irritated at Bob for just standing there, making Linda stand up to get the beer. Michael throws off a sheet and strangles the naked Linda to death before he carries her body away. Loomis goes shopping for a firearm, buying a .357 Magnum, and Laurie sits with Cynthia giving candy to trick-or-treaters until Annie picks up Laurie. Shortly after, in a very fucking quick scene that comes out of nowhere, Michael appears out of nowhere and slits Mason's throat and drags his body inside, scaring Cynthia before he breaks her neck. In a matter of a few minutes, these fucking poor people are dead. Like, these lovely people are just fucking gone. Matter of moments. Michael is babysitting Tommy. No, he's not. Laurie is babysitting Tommy. Fucking hell.
I was gonna say.
Laurie is babysitting Tommy.
Michael's going a bit cray-cray.
It was late when we watched this, and it was very hot. So Laurie is babysitting Tommy when a call from Annie interrupts them briefly, with Annie failing to see Michael outside her house. Annie is babysitting Lindsay Wallace, who is played by Jenny Gregg Stewart in this, who are going over to Tommy's house. We have seen Lindsay no, we haven't. No. No, we haven't. Sorry, I thought we covered Halloween Kills, but we haven't yet. I forgot she... No, she is in Halloween Ends. I think she is. It doesn't matter. She's in Halloween. She's a character in Halloween. Fucking hell. Lee meets with Loomis and is in denial of the mysterious things going on, being the work of Michael. He just thinks that it's like pranksters or something. I think he says, like, he doesn't believe that one man will be able to do everything. But he's evil, so he must be able to. Annie and Lindsay eventually arrive at Tommy's, where Annie stays briefly until her boyfriend picks her up once more, not noticing Michael watching. As I say, Michael does a lot of watching. He's done it since he was a kid. He's a creep. Loomis and Brackett go to the sheriff's department, where Lee berates him for monetizing the murders of the Myers. Loomis tells Lee that Michael has returned with his baby sister. I've lost it again. Lee tries to call the Strodes, but of course not receiving an answer, which makes him unnerved. Annie and her boyfriend are making love again because this film is just sex, tits, and death. That's Rob Zombie for you. So yeah, Annie and her boyfriend are making love at his house when Michael enters. He watches for a second before he gets the jump on them, stabbing her boyfriend in the chest and leaving Annie to try and flee, which fails, and he drags her inside. Annie runs from him, unable to defend herself when Michael towers over her and overpowers her. Poor old fucking Annie is no match for this fucking giant. Yep. Going back to Annie's, they find her alive but gravely wounded with her boyfriend's corpse strung up. Laurie sends Lindsay away and tries to call for help as Michael goes past the wounded Annie and toys with her boyfriend's corpse briefly. Lee and Loomis receive a radio call telling them that Michael has found Laurie at Annie's. Laurie is suddenly grabbed and attacked by Michael, but she escapes outside, frantically calling for help, arriving at Tommy's house, where Michael catches up and breaks the front door down, pursuing Laurie and the kids as a police car arrives. Two cops enter the house, and one of them, I couldn't figure out which one. He is played by David Arquette's brother. Of course, David Arquette being ironically playing a police officer in Scream, which we have covered the first one of. So the two cops enter the house where the kids warn them of Michael's presence, but Michael ambushes and kills a cop outside their room before the other cop arrives and is promptly stabbed to death. As I said at the top, it's a lot of stabbing in this film. It's Michael Myers. Michael breaks into the hiding spot. He just smashes his way through this glass door. He doesn't give a fuck. It's what you get when you hire a fucking ex-wrestler. Breaks the door down, pursuing Laurie and the kids. No, I've done that already. I've lost where I was. So yeah, Michael breaks into their hiding spot and grabs Laurie, hauling her away from Tommy's. And Brackett and Loomis arrive too late, finding a gravely wounded Annie, who is eventually picked up by an ambulance and survives. However, I don't believe she survives the second one, as far as I'm aware, if I remember correctly.
I don't think she does.
No. We'll get that. We'll get there at some point. Let us finish doing the fucking first one. So yeah, Tommy and Lindsay run to Loomis and tell him that Michael has taken Laurie, and he runs off in pursuit. Laurie awakens in the old Myers house where she sees Linda's corpse displayed near Judith's gravestone. This is kind of like a shot from the original, because he also does this with someone. I don't know if it's Linda as well, but he puts the gravestone on top of Judith's old bed and puts someone's corpse there. Michael enters the room and he drops his knife before approaching Laurie and revealing the image of him and his infant sister, and of course, this is meant to be Laurie. Laurie watches Michael unmask himself in front of her, and while his guard is down, she goes for his knife. She does manage to stab him, but because they never do in these films, she doesn't make sure he actually is dead. before attempting to escape. She gets outside, and of course, Michael recovers indoors and remasks himself before following her out. She ends up falling into the empty swimming pool when Michael storms out and watches her cry for help. Before he can attack, Loomis arrives and attempts to talk him down before shooting him 3 times, incapacitating him. Of course, because Loomis just doesn't know what a headshot is in these films. Loomis makes his way down and comforts Laurie, helping her to escape the empty pool and leave Michael behind. Loomis helps her into a police car where Michael suddenly smashes the window and grabs Laurie once more. I feel like the film should have just ended with Loomis helping her into the police car, if I'm honest. Because then they go back into the house, they have another fight, and there's the obvious sequel bait of whether or not she shot him in the head at the end. But it's like, you could have just ended it here and had the mystery of whether or not Michael was dead or not. So Michael holds on to Laurie as Loomis tries to make amends with Michael, which fails when he throws Laurie aside and grabs Loomis before starting to crush his skull with his bare hands. I thought he was gouging his eyes out, but he's just gripping and his face is bleeding. Doesn't kill him though, important. It's important to mention he's not dead. Laurie crawls into a closet, and when Michael suddenly makes his way upstairs after dealing with Loomis. Michael enters the room containing the closet and draws his knife, correctly guessing her hiding place, but Laurie had already escaped before it came up. Laurie looks over at Loomis, noticing his gun on the ground next to his body. She grabs it and runs once more, escaping into a crawl space in the attic, where Michael notices this and begins breaking the ceiling to draw her out. Laurie eventually falls for a weakened part of it and lands in front of Michael, who rushes her and throws her and himself from the balcony. Laurie, however, awakens first after landing on top of him and grabs the revolver again, standing over Michael's body. She points the gun at him and pulls the trigger, failing to fire several times until it actually does, supposedly shooting him in the head and causing her to scream out as the film ends. Sequel bait, of course. Michael, spoilers, does survive because he's Michael Myers until he's chucked into a fucking car crusher at the end of Ends. So, best kill, as mentioned, is Ishmael. Mm-hmm. Even though it's really depressing and quite horrible, it's the best of them all when most of them are just stabs. Worst kill can go to Bill Moseley as Garrett for me, because a punch to the face doesn't seem like enough. And you wanted Ronnie as your best kill when we watched it. Worst kill, because he is a piece of shit who needed more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts, babe? You need to do your you need to do your 2 famous lines.
Well, it was weird because we watched it and then I was like, even before we finished, I was like, we need to go and get it on DVD. As normally I'd be the opposite.
Well, as mentioned, that is because now we have the complete collection of Halloween.
But I did actually like it and enjoy it.
Yeah, because you'd seen the second one and you enjoyed that.
Not too gory, but enough gore.
Enough gore to...
Obviously, she's really hot.
Who, Sherry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but her acting's really good as well, so she does generally make
She can actually act.
Believable.
Yeah, Sherry Moon can actually, act. I mean, usually it's in white trash films.
I don't really have anything negative to say about it, if I'm honest.
No, I mean, there's some weird inconsistencies and a predictable plot twist.
Like a little bit, then I'll probably do.
Yeah, I'll probably watch the original over this instead, though. Just because it's more of a classic. And you have Scream Queen, fucking... Oh, what's her name? Who plays Laurie in the original? Jamie Lee Curtis, that's it. Sorry, I'm terrible with names and I forget them really easily. So, do you want to give your verdict? You need to answer your 2 questions. What you usually say at the end of a film. Was it your cup of tea?
Yes.
Would you get it on DVD?
We went and got.
Yeah, but usually that's what you say at the end. You go, I won't get it on DVD. It wasn't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so that, of course, was Halloween, the 2007 remake. It's definitely a film. It was a good film. It was a good remake. It's very rare to actually have a remake that isn't a pile of shit. It still could have done some things different. I liked the fleshing out of Michael when he was younger. However, there was so much of it. I know it's like there was a lot of explaining this fucking mass murderer, which is good in a way. And I did like all the cameos from the like character actors of the genre and friends of Rob Zombies that I quite like. But yeah, overall, yeah, it was enjoyable. It was good. I wouldn't say it was amazing. I wouldn't say it was the best thing in the world, but yeah, it was still good. I still enjoyed it. I'm probably going to enjoy it more than the second one because the second one is more like a music video than an actual film. So you have all that weird shit with his ghost mum.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's very trippy, the second one.
Mm.
But we'll cover that at some point. It's spooky season, so we're going to try and stick with horror-y stuff. I've nearly finished the Lost World novel, so expect a review on that soon. The movie, not the book. Just because now I can compare shit. It's a surprising amount of it that is linked to the film, but they've just not done correctly. So yeah, those were our thoughts on Halloween 2007. Thank you ever so much for listening to our ramblings for, I don't even know how long we've been going now. About 40 minutes-ish.
I think you need to do book reviews on your channel.
I don't want to.
Yeah, but you don't have to be on camera.
Yeah, but I don't want to.
Oh,
I just can't be asked. I don't think that would work.
oh. Oh.
Anyway, so yeah, I of course have been your host, Purple Midnight 8, joined as ever by Amelia, the Obsidian Nook. You can find her links in the description.
He
Stasi.
didn't say wife.
Okay, I don't know. Now I feel like a twat for not saying it, but I'm not going to say it still. Stasi at some point left. He doesn't have any links. You can find Amelia's in the description in the link tree, alongside all of our links and other bits and bobs. We'll be back in a couple of days, back to our regularly scheduled programming of reviews, where it's mine on a Tuesday, yours on a Saturday, and if we have one, a bonus on a Thursday.
That's if we find a really terrible film where we just.
Or if there's just a film where we want to get it done, like Scooby-Doo, Curse of the Lake Monster, or Scary Movie 4. But anyway, thank you once more for listening, and we will see you in the next one.